Hi everyone, my name is Sophia and I'm a trainee solicitor at a city law firm, and in this video I'd like to talk about my personal statement which got me an interview at Oxford and tell you a little bit about the things that I wrote in it. The first thing that I'll say before you even start writing a personal statement is to write down a list of all the things that you did that are relevant to your subject. So for example, I included all the different summer schools that I attended, and I made a video of those that were completely free and gave me exposure to all the different lectures. So I wrote down kind of the key lectures that I enjoyed and the topics that the lectures explored. I also included work placements as well that I have received as part of Such and Trust and Social Mobility Foundation. Again, I made the videos that you can take a look in, and also listed a few books as well and what ideas that they explored that particularly fascinated me. And from that point I then started to see if I can link somehow all the things that I've mentioned into themes or particular ideas, because it's really nice when a personal statement can flow from one idea to the next, and sometimes when you just have separate sentences and each one just focuses on one particular thing, it's a bit disjointed and it doesn't read as well as it can when you have a natural fluidity to your personal statement, and that's what I tried to do in mine. So I have it here, my personal statement, and I'll just be reading out the key things that I've mentioned, and to let you guys see how I link them as well. So really my opening paragraph is looking at the idea of morality and law, and this links to the book that I've read, The Concept of Law by H.L.A. Hart, and I particularly focus on the idea of if the law is unfair, for example, whether there is an equal obligation for us to obey it as a fair law. And I was then able to link this particular idea that I liked into an essay that I submitted as part of the scholarships application for which I received a scholarship. So as you can see, I have picked up on an idea that I enjoyed reading in the book, and I've actually used that argument in an essay that I then explored. And the title of the essay was "It Was Never Acceptable to Break a Law. Do you agree or disagree?" And as you can see, it links back to the idea of this concept of whether, if a law is unfair, is it acceptable, perhaps morally, for us to break it or not. I then moved on to look at a lecture that I found particularly interesting at a unique summer school that I attended. This is a free Oxford summer school. And here the lecture focused on the Fairchild Case. And the Fairchild Case is a case about three claimants that wanted to find compensation after they have suffered mesothelioma, which is a type of cancer that you get from asbestos. And I found it really interesting. I'm not going to go into the detail of this case. If you're interested, you can do your own research about it. But it was interesting because this case didn't follow kind of the normal rules of finding liability, but it made it almost like an exception to the normal rules of liability, because in order to reach a fair decision, we had to find this new exception, and that's what the judges decided. They made an exception to the normal application of rule, which I found very interesting. And in my work placement with 4 New Square Chambers that I received as part of the Social Mobility Foundation, I was actually working on a mesothelioma case, but we were looking on the impact of insurance and whether indemnity can be actually paid in proportion to the cover. So again, you can see the link that I've made with the lecture that I've seen and found interesting. And also, this was quite accidental that I've ended up working on something similar in my placement, but I was able to link the two, and you can see kind of the natural progression. You can see something that I've read about and actually something I've explored in practice and digged deeper into. The next thing that I've mentioned as well is a different book that I've looked at as well, and here I picked on 2 cases, and this was the case of Belmarsh Prison and Brown. And here I like the idea of interference of human rights, and whether it was something that can be interfered with because of public good. And again, you can look at these cases. I recommend them. They're really very interesting. And I was able to link this as well with my MUN conferences that I did, looking at the idea of justifying intervention with somebody's human rights. And how I linked it here with my conferences is I looked at the tension between human rights and the principle of state sovereignty. And I discussed issues such as legality of the force, of use of force and humanitarian intervention. So again, I was trying to not just have a separate argument about, a separate section about the fact that I did more United Nations, something that I wanted to talk about, to show that I enjoy public speaking, etc. But I also wanted it not just to sit in isolation, but to link it with something that I've read before, and to give it kind of more a legal perspective as opposed to just a political one, as kind of you would think. The last thing I'll mention as well is I talked about meeting competitions that I did with a local university as well that I've signed up for, and I talked about the kind of the enjoyment that I have in applying legal concepts, and I linked it to my study of maths and critical thinking at A level as well. So you can also link the subjects that you study as well to something that you do, which works quite nice. Later in the paragraphs, I really highlighted the topics that were kind of the hot topics at the time, because I think it's quite important. Yes, it's it's essential to look kind of at the wider ideas and kind of the fundamentals of laws, the ideas that I've talked about. But I think it's important to be aware of what are the current legal challenges or current legal thinking that is going on, and to be aware of that. So at the time, revenge porn was something that was really something like a novel idea, and I actually watched actually read the Per and Curran magazine, which is a Cambridge Law Society magazine, and again I mentioned that in my personal statement, to see that I've taken the steps to find to find information, to be aware of what's kind of the hot topics are, and I think that's really the key things that I talked about that are worth to mention. But hopefully they give you kind of the taste of things that I've included, and hopefully you can see again the links that I tried to make between different things. If you have any questions at all about writing a personal statement, or what an Oxford personal statement should be like, then please just put it in the comments and I'll be happy to answer your questions. So thank you.